I'm Rachel, trapped in a life that's bled me dry, where every day feels like a slow suffocation under the weight of gray Chicago skies. My marriage to Ethan, the man who's my rock, has become a quiet battlefield of unspoken pain, and I'm drowning in a sea of numbness I can't escape. But something's shifted. Something dark and forbidden has crept into our world, pulling me toward a dangerous edge I never saw coming. As I stand on the brink of a betrayal that could shatter everything, my heart races with a hunger I thought was long dead. What have I done, and how far will this secret take me before it all comes crashing down? There's a peculiar ache in the way silence can stretch, like a taut wire waiting to snap, and I've been living on that edge for far too long. I'm Rachel, 28, and my world feels like it's been drained of color, reduced to shades of gray that cling to me like damp fog. I'm married to Ethan, who's 32, a man whose quiet strength is the only thing keeping me from completely falling apart. He's the still water to my storm, steady in a way I can't seem to grasp anymore. We live in a cramped apartment in Chicago, where the walls seem to close in a little more each day, and I'm drowning under the weight of a life that's left me hollowed out, a husk of the woman I used to be. This morning, a dreary Tuesday, I woke up, or rather, I forced my eyes open, under a sky so overcast it might as well have been a reflection of my soul. The bed felt like quicksand, pinning me down with an exhaustion that's more than just physical. It's a bone-deep weariness, a kind of tired that sleep can't fix. I lay there, staring at the cracked ceiling, listening to the distant hum of the city outside our window, and I couldn't muster the will to move. My phone buzzed on the nightstand, a relentless reminder of the inbox waiting to bury me. Endless emails from a marketing job that sucks the life out of me, each one a tiny leech on my dwindling energy. I can already hear the grating voices of coworkers in my head, their shallow chatter echoing from yesterday's meetings, and even the thought of the subway ride to work makes my skin crawl. The strangers packed in like sardines, their elbows jabbing, their muttered complaints, their very presence. It's all too much, draining what little I have left. Ethan, though, he doesn't add to the noise. He never does. He moves through our small, cluttered space like a shadow, quiet and unobtrusive, never pushing me to spill the mess of thoughts I can't even untangle myself. He doesn't demand explanations for the way I've gone silent, for the way I've retreated into myself. Instead, he offers something else, something small but heavy with meaning. This morning, as I lay there, paralyzed by my own mind, he came over with a steaming mug of chamomile tea. He set it down on the bedside table with a soft clink, his hazel eyes catching mine for just a heartbeat, a fleeting connection before he turned away to get ready for his day as a freelance graphic designer. I reached for the mug, my fingers cold and stiff, and wrapped them around its warmth. The heat seeped into my skin, a tiny lifeline in the midst of my unraveling. It's such a small thing, that mug, that gesture, but it felt like the only thread keeping me tethered to something real, something worth holding on to. Yet, even in that moment, I couldn't ignore the distance between us. A week has passed since that dreary Tuesday, and here I am again, curled up under the weight of these threadbare blankets, hiding from the world. The alarm clock hasn't gone off yet, but I'm already dreading its piercing wail, the sound that drags me back into a reality I can't face. My bones ache, not from any physical strain, but from the sheer effort of existing. My mind is a broken record, stuck on a loop of self-loathing, whispering that I'm not strong enough, not good enough, to even pull myself out of this bed. Why can't I just get up? Why does every morning feel like a battle I'm destined to lose? The darkness in my head is suffocating, pressing down on me heavier than the quilt that's tangled around my legs. I hear the soft creak of the bedroom door, followed by the deliberate tread of footsteps on the hardwood floor. It's Ethan. I don't need to look to know it's him. His presence has a quiet weight to it, a steadiness that cuts through the fog in my mind. I peek out from under the blanket, and there he is, standing in the dim light filtering through the blinds. His dark hair is tousled, like he's run his hands through it one too many times, and there's a faint shadow of stubble along his jaw, giving him a rugged edge. He's wearing that old gray sweater, the one that hangs a little too loose on his frame, making him look both comforting and untouchable all at once. He crosses the room and sits on the edge of the bed, the mattress dipping under his weight. I feel the shift, a small ripple in my stagnant world. "We're going," he says, his voice low and firm, leaving no room for argument. "I've arranged everything. You just need to be there." I blink at him, my mind sluggish, struggling to process his words. My throat feels raw, unused, as I croak out a weak, "What?" I'm not sure if I'm asking about the plan or just trying to anchor myself to the moment. But Ethan doesn't elaborate. He just stands, his gaze steady, and tells me to pack a small bag with warm clothes. There's a finality in his tone, a quiet command that I don't have the energy to resist. Dragging myself out of bed feels like moving through molasses. Every limb is heavy, every movement a chore. I pull on a pair of jeans, the denim rough against my skin, and tug a thick sweater over my head, the wool scratching at my neck. I stumble to the closet, grabbing a duffel bag and tossing in whatever I can find: socks, a scarf, a couple of shirts, without much thought. My hands move on autopilot, my brain still half asleep, half lost in the haze that's become my constant companion. Ethan waits by the door, his silhouette framed against the faint light from the hallway. He doesn't rush me, doesn't say the drive was long, the kind of endless stretch where the world outside the car window blurs into a smear of muted greens and grays. I sat in the passenger seat, my forehead pressed against the cool glass, watching the city fade into sprawling fields and then dense, untamed wilderness. Ethan drove in silence, his hands steady on the wheel, his face a mask of quiet determination. I didn't ask where we were going, not because I didn't care, but because I didn't have the energy to form the words. My mind was still a tangled mess, heavy with the weight of my own thoughts. But there was something about the rhythmic hum of the engine that dulled the sharp edges just enough to keep me from spiraling. Hours later, the car slowed, the tires crunching over a gravel driveway that seemed to appear out of nowhere. I lifted my head, blinking against the late afternoon light, and saw it. An old wooden house perched on the edge of a vast, shadowy forest. We're somewhere in rural Wisconsin, I think, though Ethan hasn't said much to confirm it. The house looks like it's been here forever, its weathered cedar siding stained dark by years of rain and wind, the kind of place that holds secrets in its creaking bones. The gravel grinds under the tires as we come to a stop, a sound that cuts through the stillness like a whisper of warning. I step out, the chilly breeze hitting my face, carrying the faint smell of damp earth and pine. It's sharp, almost biting, and it pulls me out of my haze for a moment, grounding me in the rawness of this unfamiliar place. The forest looms just beyond, a wall of dark trunks and tangled undergrowth, like it's watching us, waiting. Ethan grabs our bags from the trunk, and I follow him to the front door, my boots scuffing against the uneven ground. The porch sags a little under our weight, the wood groaning as if it's reluctant to bear us. Inside, the house is cozy in a way that feels forced, like it's trying too hard to be welcoming. There's a stone fireplace with a crackling fire casting flickering shadows on the walls, worn plaid blankets draped over a sagging couch, and a faint musty scent that hangs in the air, the kind that tells you this place hasn't been lived in for a while. It's warm, at least, a stark contrast to the bite of the wind outside, but there's an undercurrent of something I can't name, something that sets my nerves on edge. And then I see them. 3 men, already here, sitting casually around a rough-hewn wooden table in the corner of the room. Their presence is jarring, like a puzzle piece that doesn't fit. I stop in my tracks, my breath catching as I take them in through a wary gaze. The tallest one, Marcus, has a sharp jawline that could cut glass and piercing blue eyes that seem to see right through me. He's leaning back in his chair, one arm slung over the backrest, exuding a confidence that borders on predatory. Beside him is Daniel, stockier, with a quiet intensity in the way he holds himself, his calloused hands resting on the table like they've known hard work. His face is unreadable, but there's a weight to his stare that makes my skin prickle. And then there's Liam, the youngest of the trio, lean and wiry, with a crooked smile that feels both inviting and unsettling. Like he knows something I don't. My stomach twists, a mix of confusion and unease, as I turn to Ethan, searching his face for some kind of explanation. But he just nods subtly, his expression a blank slate, giving nothing away. My heart rate quickens, a staccato beat in my chest, as Marcus stands and approaches me. His boots scuff against the worn floorboards, each step deliberate, echoing in the quiet room. He stops just inches away, close enough that I can feel the heat radiating from him. His hand reaches out, and I freeze as his fingers brush a stray leaf from my shoulder, the touch light but loaded with something I can't decipher. Then, his hand moves, grazing my hair. The air in the room feels thick, charged with a quiet intensity that presses against my skin like a living thing. The only sound is the crackle of the fire in the stone hearth, its warm glow dancing across the walls, casting long shadows that seem to shift and breathe with a life of their own. I'm standing there, still reeling from Marcus's touch moments ago, when he steps back, giving me just enough space to catch my breath. But his piercing blue eyes don't waver, holding mine with an unspoken challenge, a silent question I'm not sure I'm ready to answer. My chest tightens, my pulse a frantic drumbeat in my ears, as I try to make sense of this moment, of why I'm even here in this remote house with these strangers. My mind is a storm of questions, each one sharper than the last. Why did Ethan bring me here? What's the purpose of this strange gathering? Should I put a stop to whatever this is before it spirals further? And the most unsettling thought of all? Why don't I want to? Why is there a part of me, buried beneath the numbness that's cloaked me for so long, that's stirring awake, curious, almost hungry for whatever comes next? I steal a glance at Ethan, who's standing near the fireplace now, a glass of deep red wine in his hand. He lifts it to his lips, taking a slow sip, and I can't help but notice the way his mouth curves into the faintest of smiles, a subtle arc that sends a shiver down my spine. It's not anger or disapproval I see in his hazel eyes. It's something else, something I can't quite name, but it feels like permission, like he's watching this unfold with a quiet, deliberate intent. I shift my gaze, feeling the weight of the room shift with me, as Daniel and Liam move closer. Their approach isn't aggressive, but it's deliberate, a slow, measured advance that feels like they're testing the edges of my boundaries, seeing how far they can step before I push back. Daniel, with his stocky frame and rough, calloused hands, holds out a glass of wine, the dark liquid catching the firelight as it swirls. His fingers brush mine as I take it, a fleeting contact that sends a jolt through me, unexpected and electric. I lift the glass to my lips, the tart warmth of the wine spreading across my tongue, seeping into me like a slow burn that starts in my throat and radiates outward, loosening the tight knot in my chest just a fraction. Liam, meanwhile, settles beside me on the sagging couch, his knee brushing against mine as he sits. The contact is casual, almost accidental, but it lingers, a quiet heat that I can't ignore. He starts talking, his voice low and easy, about the forest outside, how it stretches on for miles, how it's easy to get lost in its depths if you don't know the paths. There's a casual rhythm to his words, a surface-level calm, but beneath it, I hear something more, an undercurrent that hums with unspoken intent. His crooked smile flickers as he speaks, and I find myself drawn to the way his eyes crinkle at the corners, the way he seems to lean just a little closer with each word, as if the space between us is a gap he's determined to close. I take another sip of the wine, letting the warmth anchor me, but inside, I'm a mess of contradictions. Their attention, their nearness, it's doing something to me, something I didn't expect. It's like the ice that's encased me for months, maybe years, is starting to crack, melting under the heat of their gazes, their subtle touches. I've been so numb, so detached from everything, that I'd forgotten what it feels like to be seen, to be wanted in a way that's raw and unfiltered. And now, here I am, caught in the middle of this strange, charged moment, feeling the stirrings of something I thought I'd lost forever. I glance at Ethan again, half expecting to see jealousy or anger in his expression, something to pull me back to reality, to remind me of the room feels like it's holding its breath, the once light chatter dissolving into a heavy, electric silence that wraps around us like a shroud. I can sense the shift, a tension so thick it's almost tangible, pressing against my chest, making every inhale a little sharper, a little more deliberate. The fire in the hearth crackles on, oblivious to the storm brewing in this small, weathered space, its glow painting the walls with a warmth that contrasts the chill creeping up my spine. I'm standing near the couch, the glass of wine still in my hand, its contents nearly gone, when Marcus moves closer again. His presence is a force, undeniable, and I feel the air shift as he steps into my space, his hand resting lightly on my arm. This time, I don't flinch or pull away. I let it happen, let the contact linger, feeling the heat of his touch seep through the thick wool of my sweater, a slow burn that awakens something dormant inside me. My skin prickles under the weight of his fingers, a cascade of tiny sparks dancing across my nerves, and I'm hyper-aware of every sensation, the roughness of his palm, the subtle pressure, the way my body seems to lean into it without my permission. I glance around, noticing Daniel and Liam nearby, their presence not intrusive but inviting, a quiet pull that tugs at the edges of my awareness. Their eyes hold a kind of patience, a silent offer hanging in the air, waiting for me to decide. My gaze flickers to Ethan, standing by the fireplace, his silhouette framed by the flickering light. I search his face for any sign of doubt, any hint that I should stop this before it goes further, but there's nothing there to deter me. His hazel eyes are steady, unreadable, yet somehow encouraging, and then he raises his glass in a subtle toast, a small gesture that feels like a key turning in a lock, releasing something I've kept caged for far too long. In that moment, I let go. I surrender to the pull, leaning into Marcus's touch, letting the warmth of his hand guide me into uncharted territory. My body responds with a ferocity I thought had long since faded, a hunger that surges up from somewhere deep, clawing its way to the surface. It's as if the numbness that's cloaked me for months is being stripped away, layer by layer, replaced by a raw, pulsing need I can't ignore. The betrayal unfolds right there, in the open, under Ethan's watchful gaze, and I can't pretend it's anything else. I'm honest with myself as it happens. The unfamiliar hands, the heat of skin against skin, the way every brush and whisper ignites a fire I'd buried under years of exhaustion and apathy. It's a reclaiming of something I thought was lost, a rediscovery of what it means to be desired, to be seen in a way that cuts through the fog I've been living in. And the truth is, I feel no guilt. None at all. Instead, there's this fierce, vibrant aliveness coursing through me, drowning out the hollow ache that's been my constant companion. It's like I'm breathing for the first time in ages, each breath filled with a reckless, intoxicating freedom. I'm aware of Ethan watching every second, his expression a complex tapestry of fascination, and something deeper, something I can't quite decipher through the haze of my own sensations. Is it pain, curiosity, or something else entirely? I can't tell, and in this moment, I don't care to analyze it. I'm too lost in the rush, in the way my body moves with a will of its own, guided by instincts I've suppressed for far too long. The forest house transforms around me, its creaking walls and musty air becoming a cocoon, a space where the old rules of my life no longer apply. Time seems to bend, stretching and contracting as I lose myself in the intensity of it all. Every touch, every murmured word, every shared glance, it builds into a crescendo that drowns out the world beyond these walls. The firelight dances across our shadows, merging them into something primal, something untamed, and I let myself be carried away by it. I'm not. As the intensity of the night begins to ebb, a profound stillness settles over the old forest house, wrapping everything in a quiet that feels almost sacred. The fire in the hearth has burned low, reduced to glowing embers that cast long, wavering shadows across the room, stretching and bending like silent specters on the weathered walls. The air feels heavier now, thick with the lingering heat of what just transpired, a warmth that seems to cling to every surface, every breath. Marcus, Daniel, and Liam have stepped back, their figures retreating to the edges of the space, their roles in this strange, transformative night seemingly complete. They linger near the doorway, their voices low as they murmur among themselves, giving us a moment of privacy that feels both necessary and fragile. I'm still catching my breath, my body a map of sensations I haven't felt in years. My skin is flushed, a deep, radiant warmth spreading from my chest outward, as if the fire inside me hasn't quite died down. My hands tremble slightly as I reach for the plaid blanket draped over the arm of the couch, pulling it over my shoulders with a shaky grip. The rough texture of the fabric scratches against my skin, grounding me in a small, tactile way, a reminder that I'm still here, still in this moment, even as my mind struggles to process everything. The lingering heat in my limbs feels like a quiet echo, a reminder of the raw energy that coursed through me not long ago, awakening parts of myself I thought were long buried. I hear the faint creak of the floorboards, and my eyes lift to see Ethan rising from the armchair across the room. His movements are slow, deliberate, as if he's measuring each step, each breath, with a careful precision. The dim light catches the contours of his face, highlighting the sharp line of his jaw, the faint tension in his brow as he crosses the space between us. My heart gives a small, uneven thump as he lowers himself to his knees in front of me, the gesture so intimate, so unguarded, that it steals the air from my lungs. His hands reach up, warm and steady, cupping my face with a tenderness that contrasts the wildness of the night. His thumbs brush gently across my cheeks, tracing small, soothing arcs, and I feel the roughness of his skin against mine, a quiet anchor in the storm of emotions swirling inside me. His hazel eyes meet mine, soft yet burning with an intensity that pins me in place. They're a storm of their own, flecked with gold and green, searching my gaze as if looking for something he's not sure he'll find. Then, in a voice so low it's almost a whisper, he speaks, each word heavy with meaning. I wanted you to remember who you are. I want us to do this again. The words sink into me like stones dropped into still water, rippling through my core, stirring a mix of relief and something hungrier, something that flickers to life at the promise in his tone. It's not just about tonight. It's about peeling back the layers of numbness, about rediscovering the fire that's been smoldering beneath the ashes of my everyday life. His words are a key, unlocking a door I didn't even know was there, and I feel the weight of them settle deep in my chest, mingling with a longing I can't quite name. I lean into his touch, my cheek pressing against the warmth of his palm, and I find my voice, steady despite the tremor in my hands. Next time. More. As long as you're there. The words come out with a quiet resolve, a promise of my own, and I mean every syllable. I'm not just agreeing to whatever he envisions, I'm claiming it, staking a piece of myself in this uncharted territory we've stumbled into together. His eyes flicker with something, surprise maybe, or a deeper understanding, And then his lips curve into the smallest of smiles, a silent acknowledgement of the bond we're forging in this moment. He pulls me closer, his arms wrapping around me, and I melt into the embrace, my head resting against his chest. The steady rhythm of his heartbeat thuds beneath my ear. Don't forget to subscribe, like, and comment if you enjoyed this story. This will help us create more engaging stories for you.